This episode is brought to you by the LinkedIn Deal Flow System. Do you want to learn the exact system I use to help a $15 million company acquire a $7 million company and get paid $500,000 in equity shares just for putting the two together? Do you want to learn how I got 800,000 impressions and have deal flow show up in my LinkedIn inbox? Just go to dealflowsystem.net and look for me on LinkedIn. Now let's get to the guest. Welcome to the Top M&A Entrepreneurs. Today, my guest is Marcus Skeen. Marcus and I are in the same mastermind group and known each other for over a year. And we have exchanged all kinds of like best practices, things work, things don't. We've been in two masterminds together, fundraising ones too. And so I'm here today to talk to Marcus about his recent success of signing a deal over a long period of ups and downs, and finally getting the deal. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So you started, from Australia. Why did you move to the United States, and what was that process?
Yes. So if I go back all the way to 2018, I had a security business in Australia, and I just was looking to start one in the Philippines as well. And I came across a company that was for sale in the Philippines, and it turned out that it was some guy that was copying a Filipino from America's company that was based here in Los Angeles. So we got connected. I came to the US, and then from there I thought about doing business. Sort of looked into it, but nothing serious. But then COVID hit, and March 15 of 2020, Australia basically said they were locking down, and on March 16th, we lost 90% of our revenue. So, we're thinking about what I could do further, and then basically I think the company lasted another 3 months, and then basically had to close it down. So, ended up looking into some things, and as you said, we ended up in a group together. It just happened to pop up on my Facebook. I think once I looked into it, this looks pretty good. And I think it was July 2020 that I started doing that, and spoke to the wife, and then said, how about we move to, or have a look to moving to the US. Middle of a pandemic, December, 1st of December, we jumped on a plane after painstakingly getting some exemptions from the Australian government, and landed here on tourist visas on 1st of December 2020. So,
what were you doing? I mean, were you working for a company? You running your own company? Did you have cash flow coming in, or what?
I had my own company, but then it closed, or basically we closed it down on July of 2020, and basically the contracts were unsold to another company. So there was some contracts left, and then I started consulting for him, and then I still consult now, and my wife still does some admin work for him on the base now. But we didn't have anything tying us down to Australia, and I guess in the middle of the pandemic and the way the Australian government was, we just made the decision that maybe it's best to look elsewhere. And with the defunding of the police and the riots and stuff that was going on at the time, we thought perfect opportunity for us to look into the security industry in the US, and so that's why we ended up here. And we were supposed to be here 3 months, go to Mexico for a month, and then come back here for 3 months, but that all changed once we arrived. So.
Yeah. So where did you find this deal that we're going to talk about specifically? When, what date, and how did you find it?
Yep. So I had two. So initially I had one. So if most, people that won't know the security space, there's not a lot of security companies for sale in the USA, period. In California, there was a few, but Los Angeles specifically, there was none. So I came across one.
Let me stop. So the audience knows what we're talking about. What kind of security company is it?
Yeah. So it's security guards, like housing associations, retail outlets,
malls, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, just security guards across the board. But I'm sort of looking more of a solution. So I have two equipment products which are brought to me with the USA, but I need the licenses to sell them. So I need to tie them in with a security guarding company to provide an overall solution. So that's why we were looking, because we needed the license. So we needed to find a company where we could buy the license. So we initially looked and we found a company that was in Los Angeles, and we started investigating that one. It was sort of progressing along, but a number of things happened but that was through, it had a broker, which, in the group that we did our stuff was, never use a broker, which, I don't buy into 100% completely, but, the basis of it is that brokers usually do kill deals, and it's really difficult to deal with a broker, especially when you find that they're being underhanded and saying things behind your back, which they shouldn't be saying. So same site, I think it was bizbuyandsell.com, I think. And then I saw this advertised, and it was different because, and it was surprisingly, because in that week there was about 3 companies that came up that were all looked like they were individual owners as opposed to going through brokers. So I contacted this gentleman. The company was based in Las Vegas, has headquarters in Las Vegas, but has licenses to do business in 7 states. So I was like, okay, well, this looks really good. It's
what kind of date are we talking about?
So I started, the Los Angeles one was March. Then we went through a process where we had to go back to Australia to get our visas.
2021?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it was February 2021. We found the one in LA, went through a process. June 28th, we went back to Australia to process our visas. We're lucky, and it's like didn't realize how lucky we were until it was like, I guess you could say we won the lottery, because we got back to Australia. Australia locked down. We had 2 emergency appointments cancelled. Finally got an emergency appointment. Went to the embassy. To the consulate in Sydney, got that done, came back here, and then found out the week after that the consulate in Sydney had closed, and all of a sudden there was no more scheduled interviews in Australia at all. So we really got lucky. Got back here in August of 2021. Was still looking at the same business in Los Angeles. Another one in Los Angeles came up, but that was through a broker. Had a meeting with the owner, and he'd lost his 2 major clients the week before, and it's like, well, that's not going to work because there's no value, and even though they reduced the price, it still just wasn't going to work. So was looking still at this other Los Angeles company, and then it was about probably around September, and this one popped up on Biz Buy and Sell and made the connection there. But the idea was to still continue with and acquire the one in Los Angeles, and then use that and leverage that to acquire the one in
kind of like a roll up of all of these 3, right? Yeah.
So that was the idea initially, but there was issues with the one in Los Angeles. We'd entered in an LOI. We're working on it, but their concern was new to the country. You got no credit. How are you going to get financing and blah 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 blah. I got some initial funding approvals, but when it came down, it turned out that they got their PPP, which was no issue, and we'd sorted out that, and I think they ended up getting $1.7 million in PPP, and in the end it was all forgiven. But when we went down the road of trying to look to do the paperwork properly, it turns out he also had an EIDL loan. I think it's
what was this?
EDIL. So it was they were in addition to the PPPs, but these ones weren't forgivable. So because they had to be transferred, it was either we had to pay it off, which then basically increased, because we negotiated a decent price, but then we had to increase it by $500,000 to get the EIDL paid off, or have it transferred. And unfortunately, it was going to be difficult to transfer it to me because the SBA wouldn't transfer to someone who's just basically arrived in the country. So I got a phone call from the seller in Vegas, and he said, "Oh, look, I had an offer, and I just want to know where you're at." And I said, "Look, I'm open and honest with you. I want to be transparent. I was looking to do this LA business. I'm still trying to work on it. I'm still a few weeks away, and I was looking to leverage that." I said, "However, if you're interested in doing something alternative, and we can work on, something where, I'll pay you a premium, I'll pay your asking price, but, we're going to have to become creative on how it's going to get done. We can maybe consider."
Yeah. Well, what did you know about him? I know that you got that skill from picking up Epic, but what did you know about him that he may be receptive to that?
Well, it's sort of because I guess we we contacted, I guess, at least every maybe once a week, twice a week.
You contacted him, or he contacted you?
Both.
Okay.
But the last contact was he contacted me and basically said that he had an offer on the table and wanted to know where I was at. So I think our initial conversation was probably second or third week of September. His phone call came probably middle of November. So we'd probably roughly been talking for about 6 weeks. So I mentioned to him, so look, actually going back to what we learned in our group was, and they said, put it out there and said, maybe look at something alternative. And he was like, okay, maybe. And then one thing that was sort of adamant was he was looking at doing asset sale and I needed stock sale because I needed the licenses. So I said,
well, so why? Yeah, why was that? You needed a stock sale versus an asset purchase agreement. Why?
Yeah, because we need the firm licenses or the security licenses, or in California they're called PPOs. They're not transferable. Like you can keep them as in, like, you can add people to them, you can take people off them, but you can't transfer them from one company to another. And the issue was why I didn't start from the beginning was that and loving the USA with all the loopholes, right? So if I was to start from scratch, it would take around 6 months for me to get my PPO. However, they still wouldn't give me a direct answer if they would take my Australian experience into consideration. Now, if they didn't, I'd have to go down the road of being a security guard and getting security guard hours up. I think it's around 4,000 hours, which would take
you personally. You'd have to be a security guard. Yeah. Okay.
That'd take 2 years, or roughly about 2 years to get it completed. Second to that is, while I can get the PPO as a non-citizen, you need a qualified manager who's an American citizen. So I can own a company and I can have be on PPO, but a qualified manager needs to be an American citizen. So part of the deal was going to have to be that they're going to have to maintain the licenses at least for 12 months until I can either we come to an agreement, or I can find someone else to take over. And
I recall you asking a number of people in our mastermind, and they mentioned it or something. Did that ever come to fruition, or did you go a different direction?
So initially, why I came here, so I ended up partnering, or technically partnering up with one of the guys from the mastermind, and he had his own company, and he basically wrote, the reason why I got the exemption to leave Australia was he wrote a letter saying that we're going to look to do business, and we have these kiosks, which they're COVID related because they can reduce face-to-face contact with security guards. So that's why I got the exemption to leave Australia. Now I still have those, and we've expanded on those, and that's one of the products that I'm bringing to the market, as well as a smart safe. So based on that, but when we were having difficulties in getting our visa, he basically dumped me like a hot potato. So I was like, okay, so just went on my own way. And,
oh man, I didn't know hear about that. Yeah.
So it was so not, I guess, dumping myself into it, but the US government knows, obviously, but we ended up overstaying our visas like 4 months. And so, it was a very stressful time, even to the point we got back to in the consulate, and he wrote everything down on and said, I found out that even though we had our visas approved, he goes, oh, there's no issue we're going to approve, but I'm going to put everything down on why you overstayed. He said, but even you get to the border, if the border agency is not in a good mood, you're not coming in. So I was like, when we landed, we're a bit, iffy, but like everything's okay. So we got here, got set up now, but then obviously have to come over the issues with the licenses. So I basically had a conversation with the guy and said, look, I want you to stay involved in the business. I'll give you your asking price. So he had a low ball offer. I think the low ball offer was about 700,000 below his asking. And we were pretty much, transparent in that, okay, theirs was low ball. It was probably worth 300,000 to 400,000 over it, but he had an over asking price of probably 200 or 300. But I said, look, I'll accept that.
So that offer, it was about the other offer that he was trying to, was it a bluff or was it a real offer?
As far as I can tell, it was a real offer. So I guess in numbers wise, he was asking 2.7 million. They offered 2 million, and we discussed and said, look, reality-wise, the business is probably worth around 2.3, 2.4. But you're asking us 2.7. I'll accept 2.7, but we need to go down an alternative route and see if it'll work. And I said, based on that, we can structure it in a way, and then he'll stay involved. So basically, we structured it that he'd get $500,000 as a salary over 5 years, $100,000 a year, and he would maintain the licenses. So that would then end my headache, and then we could either, if things worked out great, we could continue on, or after 5 years, hopefully I was down the process of becoming a citizen.
So what was your insurance on that? Let's say he gets hit by a bus, or he, starts doing drugs or whatever it is, that you can keep that license for 5 years.
So the good thing is, so I own the company and the actual license, but he's the qualified manager to maintain the license. So I can get rid of him at any time possible and then just replace him with another qualified manager. So, the longer it goes, the more connections I make, then there's the more chance I'm going to find someone that qualifies.
It gives you a runway, right? Yeah.
But,
so I got to ask you a question. I mean, this is a lot. You're going through a lot of emotional ups and downs. Like there was one part where we were in another how to raise capital group, and you were looking at this, like put $200,000 down. They gave you $3 million or something. What was that about, and how did that transpire or end?
Yeah, so that I looked at doing that, but and I don't want to mention names because because
I've had a number of people come to me afterwards doing the same thing, and I said, look, I don't understand. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, so they had, initially I was introduced to this group, I think March of last year. They had that program where it was like 4 times, I think it was. So if you put down $500,000, you get 2 million out supposedly within, it was paid out, I think, over 12 months, 4 tranche schedules or something like that. I've since found out that someone had put in the money. So you basically get your money back from the first tranche. So I know that someone who's put their money in, they got their first tranche, which was all well and good. So I guess they've got their money back. So they're not out of pocket. But the remaining 3 tranches is now 12 months, and they haven't been paid any of them. They've been delayed. Now, I'm not sure if it has something to do with, because it is connected to a hedge fund, and it's around about the same time. And they're not very transparent on where the hedge fund is, but it's around about the same time as the GameStop happened. So it could have been one of those hedge funds that lost all their money during that. So that could have been well and good of why. They're not saying that they're not going to get the money, it's just delayed. But even though it's still 12 months. So they then came out with a new program, which was a 10 times program, which I investigated. I had the proof of funds. I was looking at potentially doing it, but the buyer of the LA company was going to put up the funds. But we went into a meeting. He had his lawyer there, and they just weren't comfortable with the wording of how it was structured and where the money was going. And so they decided that that's not the option they wanted to do. I since know that someone who did put their money in, they said 14 to 90 days, and the fine print says 100 banking days. Technically, his payout day was supposed to be the 12th of March. He's still waiting as well. So the thing is, I don't believe they're not. I wouldn't say they're a scam. I do believe that you'll get your money out on the back end. But if you're on a deadline, so if you're using the money to acquire businesses or purchase real estate, or and you've got a deadline that this needs to meet, then these aren't the guys for you, because they're not going to make the deadline. So that turned out not to be a good option.
Yeah.
So I was still looking at that, but so I think.
Were you transparent with him about the financing type you were going to use?
So both companies, the LA company and the Vegas company, both of them, I was fully transparent. So the Vegas company, when we decided to go down the road, I was still talking to the guy in LA, but it was sort of gone a bit cold. Now, what had come out, and I guess this is one thing that I think is valuable information for everybody to know, is that when you're going down this road of mergers and acquisitions, is especially when you're dealing with family-owned sole person businesses, it doesn't matter whether it's here in the US, doesn't matter if it's in Australia, is 9 times out of 10, when you go to look at their books are all over the place. The books aren't complete. The books, they don't make sense. The books aren't in a position where you can go, I can fund that. Like, you can look at the business and go,
was this, you looked at their books and then made an offer, or made an offer and then looked at their books under the hood?
Yeah. So the one in LA, we was good in they had a company that had made an offer while I was in Australia, and they were actually to the point where they're going to sign the deal. Went into the meeting, the last meeting, and went to sign the contracts, and then noticed that the company, though it was a corporate company, had put in 4 clauses, which had basically screwed this guy, or would have screwed this guy out of about $1 million, because the deal was that the PPP loan had to go into an escrow until it was approved to be forgiven. However, they put in a clause that said if it wasn't forgiven by this date, the money would go back to the company, and then they would still be able to get it forgiven, and then they would keep the money, and he wouldn't get the money. So it basically was about $1 million. So he'd lose the money. So he goes, I'm not signing that. So
wait a minute. Was he looking to keep the money himself, or to keep it in the business?
No. So he would have kept the money himself if it was forgiven. If it wasn't forgiven, the money comes from escrow, goes back to the business.
Yeah.
But the thing was,
the PPPs were meant to save the businesses.
No, so he used the money to save the business, but because it hadn't been forgiven, he had the money himself, and it was basically in an escrow, which basically it was, if the money's forgiven, then the money goes back to him. If the money's not forgiven, the money has to go back to the company.
Okay.
But what they did, was they put in that if it's not done by this date, then we're taking the money, and then we'll get it forgiven, and they'll pocket the money themselves. So I guess the smoke and mirrors from that was this corporate company come in and spent $30,000-$40,000 on a due diligence company. So everything was there. You could see everything, and it was sort of in order. There was a couple of issues that could have raised a red flag. They had one client that was 75% of their business, but it was different individual contracts within that contract. So it made sense, but it was still a red flag.
Sure, 75% of your business could have killed you.
So we went through the process, and the problem was, as it went further down the process, like I'd ask him for I need this document, I need that document, no problem. As we further went down the process, the documents that hadn't been completed by the due diligence company, because obviously we're getting month by month by month. So about 3, probably 4 months now, getting into November, after this other corporate company pulled out, like he didn't have it. Like, can you give me a profit and loss statement? And then we wouldn't have the wages on it. I'm like, just pull it out of your QuickBooks. And it's like, oh, we don't use QuickBooks. And then like I was getting paperwork that was like handwritten, and I'm like going, what is this? So
what did they use? What were they using? Just spreadsheets?
So they're using QuickBooks for the invoicing, paychecks for the payroll. So like the numbers were there. It's just from a funding point of view, it's not in a QuickBooks format. So it's like, funders want to see, we can verify this through QuickBooks and everything, where there's a sort of like, well, we've got this bit in QuickBooks, this bit over here, and you have to put together, and it's like, well, that doesn't work. So we had some funding that was approved, but then, as I said, the EIDL came out, so it was dragging on. So then that's why I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll reverse the roles and then look at the Vegas company first, and then have the LA one. Maybe we can leverage that one later on. So I got into an LOI, and then basically the terms of the LOI was that we're looking to go down the road of doing a management buyout. So basically, the LOI would bring me on board as an employee, pay me a salary.
All right. So you proposed a management buyout. You come on as a employee. Then what happened? Yeah.
So the issue was, and there was an employee who was his second in charge, and was basically running the company. Now, from the beginning, I wasn't happy with the fact he was taking exorbitant amount of salary. He was the salary the revenue of the business was just over $4 million, and he was, the EBITDA was probably about 700-ish, somewhere in there, and then he was taking $400,000 salary.
10% of revenues.
Yeah. So I'm like, I said, this doesn't make sense. And like, I've got portrayed this guy's the be all and the end all, and he's a really good guy. And I'm like, that's all well and good, but like, the numbers don't justify the salary. So he,
but that's his business. I mean, he could use it as a personal piggy bank if you want. It's just.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's not the owner. This was the employee was taking that salary.
Oh crap.
So I was like, okay. So anyway, I got, we went on, like, it's sort of the LOI. We agreed on terms, signed the LOI, and then the process sort of dragged on for a couple of weeks, and then there was, basically the employee, like, basically like stopped me from being employed. But we still went down the road, and the deadline of the LOI was 23rd of January. So I said, look, you haven't complied with the LOI, we sort of back and forth, but I'll still try and get this done by that date.
Yeah, so you got multiple deals trying to close, and they're both in the same niche. You're being very creative. I mean, do you, at some point, you're like, man, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, or what?
Yeah, no, so, and that's the main thing was, it was, I guess the thing was with the main mastermind thing we did was like, if you just look at that from outside and looking in, it's like the way they talk and portray, you get this opportunity here and it closes tomorrow. And, it's like, and that's not the reality at all. The reality, like at this point I was already, 12 months in, but realistically we came in August. So 6 months, full on trying to get this solved, and it's still dragging on. And, 1 minute we're going forward, the next minute we're going back. And in the meantime, I don't have any income, and all of our savings are, basically going. It's like looking, where we're going to get money from, what are we going to do. So got the pressure of that here, and then the pressure of trying to get these deals done. So the initial LOI.
Did neediness ever creep into your negotiations, or were you ever to compartmentalize that? I mean, you got these pressures of I got to buy a business, got to get the cash flow, but I don't have a income. I'm not consulting or whatever that is. And then, you want to call somebody to move something along, but it's kind of needy. Like, yeah,
I think potentially yes. And I think it probably went too far as in become needy, but like, I don't think it went to the point of like, it didn't do it to the point where, it affected the deal per se, but it's definitely like I'm, portraying, go, look, we need to get this done, and then, my, I guess I was really focused on, you need to bring me on board. I need to start taking salary because like this is dragging on too long, et cetera, et cetera.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. All right. So where were we at on that? I'll take this. I'll have to hit this later, but let's just pick up where we left off.
Yep. So, so I think, it was like, I was sort of pushing for me to come on board as a consultant.
Right. Was that kind of a consulting for equity deal that you'd come in for a percentage, or they'd send you cash flow because you needed the cash flow?
Yeah, just send me cash flow because I needed the cash flow. But at pretty much every point, both companies rejected it. So I know one was, I don't want to bring you on board unless the funding's guaranteed. But the way he was trying to do the funding was it just wasn't going to work. So that's why then the LOI with the Vegas, it was like he hadn't complied with what we'd signed on and agreed on. Like he'd sent me an employment contract, but then nothing happened because it was stopped by this other employee. So, and then
God, hold on. Something's going. Something's. All right. Well, so I have to ask you about the read of these two sellers. One was doing $4 million, but one employee was taking $400,000. Why was the owner allowing an employee to take $400,000?
Well, I guess from his own admission was checked out. This guy was running the company. This guy had a great reputation. Now, it was portrayed to me that he'd sold his company in another state, and that his non-compete had just ended in that state, and there was potentially up to 10,000 hours of man hours a week available that he would be able to tap into. Now, I was like, that's all well and good, but you're not based in that state any longer. Realistically, even if if it's really good, you're looking at 7,000 hours. What it came out was later was he'd sold that company in 2002. So I'm like, non-competes don't go for 20 years. We're now in 2022 years, 2022. So there's no way there's a 20-year non-compete. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's not possible. Yeah.
So certain things started to come out, and there started to, some cracks started to fill in, and like all of a sudden, I said the books weren't in order.
Essentially, you're a threat to him because his $400,000 is going to go away if you come in and run this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to the end of the first LOI, and then we re-signed a new LOI. But I partnered up with a US citizen and as my CFO. He's a professor, mergers and acquisitions, business financing type stuff in a Southern California a university. He's the husband of my wife's friend. So that's how we sort of got talking, and one thing led to another, and so we sort of started looking, and I gave him the information. He said, look, this looks all right, and then he said, look, I'm willing to put up my credit and my history so we can I guess take the business. So that's when we started looking at even more creative, and then we ended up going. Me and him went up to Vegas, and we sat down and went through the books and everything, and we said, look, that's good. It looks on paper, it looks good. However, we want to see the proper books. And the guy that was running the company had his own system that was online. The accountant hadn't done anything. It turned out like the year of 2020, there was a $1.5 million loss on the IRS books, on the tax filings. And then I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then I actually wrote a letter to the accountant, said, can you please explain this? And he came back with, I've just checked, actually, I made a mistake. So I was on the phone to the seller, and I'm like, you've made a mistake. It's like turned out like I think the loss was around 200,000, but that was explainable. But I'm like, that's a $1.2 million mistake. Like, that's not a mistake that you can afford. So the thing was, so it's like, okay, so what are we going to do here? So he's
how quick are you going to kill this deal here, or what?
Well, the thing is, we're definitely looking, but the thing is, on paper, it makes sense. So I spoke to my partner, and he goes, look, I will go in and recreate their books the whole of 2021 and up until April for free. So
was he a forensic accountant?
No, but he's done this enough to be able to, so we've got all the bank accounts, we've got all the expenses. It needs to be.
Oh yeah, you could just dump that into a QuickBooks or White Plains or something like that.
And then they're doing QuickBooks desktop. So he said we'll transfer it online. So then you can do it. Everyone, we'll fix the books up. So at a minimum, even if we don't do something for you, he said your books will be fixed, so you can go and sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So we went up there on the first week of February.
And wait a minute. Were they resistant to that?
Not initially.
Because anytime somebody resists an audit, this is like an audit. If they resist, there's funny business going immediately.
Well, the thing was, so we went up there, and there was the owner and the manager was there, and the manager was like not really interested in the meeting. We asked for some information from the meeting. We got one part of the first part of the information sent the same day. We asked for the age receivables, and we said we'll have it by this afternoon. Then the next day came, didn't have it. The following day, followed up, where's the age receivables? Oh, they haven't been, they're not up to date. We have to update. It turned out that, before that, I had a conversation with someone and said, look, this is not looking good. And it turns out that the manager ended up resigning. Now, we're asking for the age receivables, and he said, look, the books aren't updated. It looks like the manager, when I told him I was selling the business, looks like he's checked out in October. But I said that when we were looking, I said, well, how long haven't the age receivables updated? It's like nearly 12 months they haven't been updated. So I'm like, that's not checking out when you're selling the business. That's like a long time before. So I said, my issue is that, and I said, and I guess me and the seller were starting to get, become acquaintances type, friendly. So I said, my concern, like this guy's taking an exorbitant amount of salary, and like it's the business not being run properly. So anyway, we sort of agreed that, anyway, the manager left. The owner was left on his own, and then basically ghosted me for nearly 6 weeks. So we started moving on. We're looking at other acquisitions. But he'd send me a message once a week or something just to keep me interested. After I think it was about 5 weeks, he came back and said he's got another offer. So I said, okay, no worries. So basically, he said, well, how can we structure something else? So he basically then came up, and then it was his suggestion, and said, look, if you come up with $500,000, he said, and then this year was, you come up with $500,000, and then I'll sell a finance to balance. Now, I'd already renegotiated the price on the LOI. So the initial price was $2.7 million. Now they lost the contract that was, and this is the reason why the manager decided to move on. So lost the contract that was worth about $800,000. So I renegotiated.
Aside from the potential fraud going on with the number one guy, right, and then the books not to be in order, there's no way you could offer him what he thinks it was worth. Yeah. So
we renegotiated, and basically the new price was $1.6 million. But then on top of that, I'd pay him the $500,000 salary. So it was about 2.1, if you're going to say it's total. He said $500,000 down, and he'll sell the finance to balance. So I said, look, that's all well and good, but we need to fix your books. So he was resistant to that. He didn't want us to. He said, if I go down this road of because basically my partner said, we recreate your books, and then based on that and using my credit. And then since then, I was lucky that I ended up getting my credit and everything updated. So I ended up getting a credit score in the mid 700s. So then we had that as well. But he's like, he'll basically, and then also the partners, he'll put down $100,000 of his own money. So this sort of was going back and forth. I said, but it's not like, so he's going, oh, look, maybe you just go and find a strategic partner. And I'm like, the seller, I'm going, what are you talking about? I said, the $500,000 has to come from somewhere. Now, if I build up a strategic relationship with someone, doesn't happen overnight. So then we went down the road of, and he kept saying, oh, you can maybe find a company in Los Angeles that wants to do an acquisition. And I said, if that's the case, I said, they don't need me. I said, if they're already looking to do this acquisition, they've already got their management team in place, and then you've already advertised your business. So if they're looking at acquisitions, especially outside of California or Los Angeles, they're already going to have contacted you. So they're not going to need me, so that's not going to work. So this went back and forth for a few weeks, probably for a couple of weeks. And it was actually becoming quite frustrating, and I was ready to pull a pin and go, this is too much. Finally,
but you did pull the pin on this one. Yeah, didn't you?
No. This is the one I ended up doing the deal.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we still went down the road, and then he finally messaged me and said, how much money can you come up down? And I said, look, I'll probably come up with about 100,000. So the initial conversation was he wanted the 100,000 down, non-refundable, but before we did the books. And it's like, this is not going to happen. So we got on a call with, and it was the same day he actually told me, and then we got on a call that night with my partner, and he had another offer. This was separate to the first offer. He had another offer.
He still had it listed on Biz Buy Sell or other places, yeah.
So he came up and he basically said that he'd been given an offer of $1 million cash, just for the contracts, and $1 million in stock options, which you could turn into cash within 6 months. Now, I said,
Did you know who the other offer came from?
oh, no, I didn't. But
Obviously, was it an OTC company or like a publicly traded company?
public traded. So this is where the interesting thing came out, because I said, in my experience, in my experience is you're going to get $1 million cash now, and then they're giving you $1 million in stock options, which you're saying you can turn into cash in 6 months. I said, stock options are a long-term option. They're not designed to turn into cash within 6 months. So I said, I don't believe it ever. So
and I can guarantee you this, they're also going to do this, contingent upon we doing your audit. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing was, he said, no, that wasn't him. So we got on the phone that night with my partner, and the partner goes, so this offer, are they a public traded company? And he went, yep. And he went, the deal's not real. And then the seller went, well, what do you mean? He goes, if it's a public traded company, it doesn't matter what structure your deal is, within 90 days, they've got to provide the SEC with your financials. You don't have any financials because we're the ones we're offering to do them for you.
Yes.
So anyway, so he said, so my partner said, I'm not giving you a $100,000 non-refundable deposit because I don't know what I'm buying. On paper, it looks like this is good, but we need to recreate the books to make sure that what we're buying is what we've got. So we're not doing it. So then we ended the conversation. So that was basically the deal done. So I was like, yep. So that was like on the Thursday. So we just left it. On the Saturday night at about 1 a.m. in the morning, I got a text from him and said, I have a question for you. So I just replied, you guys, I have a question for you. I want to ask you tomorrow. So I just replied, okay, not expecting to hear from him because I'm thinking 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, you've had 5 bottles of wine, you tanked up, you get whatever. So, but 8 o'clock in the morning, he texted me and said, all right, he goes, I've thought about it. He goes, because I actually like your offer better. Because the reason is that it keeps him involved. And, he's, in fairness to him, he's developed on paper a really good business over the last 7 years. So it keeps him involved to be able to help develop it, but while handing it over to me. And the reason why he wants out is because he's going back into doing another business with his family. So
what kind of business?
Real estate.
Real estate. Okay.
So,
but then going into real estate, your offer really doesn't help him with, going into down payments for real estate.
No. So, but yeah, it's a family business. So it's structured in a different way. So it sort of makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So the thing was, so he basically texted me the next day and said, look, in lieu of the $100,000 down on non-refundable deposit, would you be willing to sign over the exclusive rights of selling your AI technology and your safes to my company? And I didn't even have to think about it because it was like, because he basically was said, well, if we go down this road in 3 or 4 months and then we don't follow through with the deal, and then he's going to set him back six months. So by me signing over technology is like I have skin in the game. But for me, it made sense because if I sign over the rights to him, then it gives me the license to be able to sell. So even if we don't follow through with the deal or the deal falls through, I still have an avenue to be able to sell my safes and my technology.
Where did he get that idea from?
I'm not sure, but he came up with it. So I was like, yep, okay, we can do that. So then what I did was then I went back and instead of doing a new LO, we did it like a heads of agreement. And basically, I basically put down was I come on board with a salary starting. So this was a Sunday. It was like just about 2 weeks ago now. As of next Wednesday, I start getting a salary. I come on board as the vice president of operations. And basically as a consultant through my own company. We then fix your books for you. Then once we fix the books and the books make sense, we'll put down a $100,000 deposit, refundable. And then basically we'll get funded an additional $500,000, and then the balance is seller financing. So he basically then said, okay, so when we get the 500,000, we swap. So he then becomes the vice president and I become the CEO. And then he takes a salary of $100,000 and we have seller financing
for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Now, initially I put 3%. And I sent it to my partner. He signed it. I said, "Yep, I'm happy with that structure. That's all good." Send it to and the seller comes back and goes, "I'm happy with everything except the 3%." And so, because I just put 3% because 3% is SBA rates or something, right? So I rang my partner and said, "Oh, he's happy with everything except for the 3%." And then my partner started laughing, because actually 3% is a little bit low. So we ended up. He said maybe 7 got 5. He came back and he said 6. So we agreed 6% over 5 years. Then we've sort of just back and forth on a few things, and it's like, well, I'm a bit concerned about cash flow of the business initially, and
But this is before the books are done, now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the agreement was that for the first 12 months, you'll only take $50,000 as a salary. Then for 4 years, we'll take 100,000. Then the last year will be 50,000. But I said, but it's also based on him also bringing in new business as well. So there was that we agreed on, and then also the payments on the seller financing don't start for 6 months after we take over.
Yeah.
So basically that was it. I went up there on the Tuesday. We went through all the admin. He showed me how to invoice, showed me all his payroll, signed off on the deal, and then Wednesday, and then now we're 2 weeks in. So basically the deal's done.
So how much do you own? That's when you're a VP and then you swap. How much of the company do you own?
Okay, so I have a deal with my partner that it's a 60-40 split. But then once we take over, the seller's going to keep 10%.
Okay.
Now, once the seller financing is paid off, it's also in the agreement that he will sell us back the 10% at the cost of one alcoholic beverage on a boat off the coast of California.
Okay, that's cool.
So,
why do you think that deal worked for him? His motivations to where he's going.
Well, the thing is, and I think it comes back to doing an alternative deal. And as I said, I already mentioned, me and him have built up a sort of a bit of a friendship, a rapport. I know he's going through certain things. He understands what I'm trying to do. He's, at the end of the day, this is his company. It's his baby. He wants to see it succeed. He doesn't, he wants to on-sell, but he wants to see it succeed. He still, I guess, has some sort of emotional attachment to it.
This is a guy that was employing somebody that, was pulling out $400,000 for that business. He took his eye off the ball for a while.
He did. And the thing, I guess the thing is that, he's a bit, he looks like, well, he doesn't look like it, but he seems to be burnt out, hasn't had enough of the security industry, which isn't uncommon. A lot of the businesses I've looked at over the last few years, the main reason is the owner's like, I've had enough security, I want to get out.
Yeah.
But I think the option of him sort of remaining involved without actually having to do the day-to-day stuff, not having to be involved with security guards, not having to be.
So how is that 10% in him bringing in business? What does that look like? You require him to do 20 phone calls a week or month, or just? So
the 100,000 is basically to maintain the licenses. Now, not only maintain, so we've got seven licenses in 7 states. Maintain those, so he's the name on those, which is what we need as an American citizen. On the reverse side, if we expand, so let's say we go into New York, or if we go to Chicago, then he would be that person that would also go onto those licenses.
Yeah. Is the guy in California, the other Epic guy, he's American citizen, would take that role or what?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the thing was, so it basically structured. So, and then it's also that his salary will increase providing he brings in new business. So if he brings in like $1 million in business, then his salary will go to 150.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But then the good thing is that and which was his suggestion is that so he starts at 100,000 on the 1st of January, and then if he hits $1 million, then he goes up to 150. But then on the 1st of January the following year, it goes back down to 100, and you have to get that $1 million again. So it all fell into place. When you've talked, I'm a bit sarcastic as my Australian humor or whatever. So I I'm into him going, we could have done this 6 weeks ago, but at least we're here now. So
Yeah. How did you feel? Well, I guess the question is like, how many times did you feel like giving up over this year, almost a year or more?
I've had some dark days, and there's been some days where I didn't want to get out of bed, and the thing is, but at the end of the day, I came here for a reason, and you've got to just keep going.
You and I have been friends for a while, and I just remember a couple of times we talking that it's just like I knew on the other side. I go, Marcus, geez, man, he feels like I feel like he's depressed. But the weird thing about it is you kept going. You kept moving forward. Even though your head was down, it was dark, it's cold, it's snowy, you kept going.
Yeah. And the thing is, like there was always that hope that you could get something going. But
yeah,
the thing is, I guess tapping into the mastermind was like, and there's actually think there's another Thursday call that we do. And he was also on the and then he made a comment which made sense to me. And he was like, if I followed that mastermind 100%, how it would, how it's portrayed, he goes, I'd already be broke. He goes, but you take parts of it and you put it together.
Right. Oh, this is your partner said that. Yeah.
No. This is what the guy that does the Thursday call.
Oh yeah. Yes. I agree with that. I know who you're talking about. I agree.
Yeah. And the thing was, I think it makes sense is that like, if you go into any of these masterminds, you can get caught up in doing 10 different masterminds and actually not getting nothing done. And the thing was, you're trying to follow these 100%, and they're telling you what they've done to be able to succeed in what they're doing. And they give you this tool and that tool and this tool. You don't have to use all of the tools.
You can't. There's so many like this mastermind you're talking about earlier. Somebody asked me, goes, I want to do what he does. Like, well, it's not going to happen because you don't have all the resources, the capital, and everything, and the experience that he has in place.
Yeah,
in the foundation.
Too is like, ideally that initial mastermind was directed at like digital marketing agencies, and like it works for any business, but you've got to like really adjust to it yourself. And I think that's what kept me going is that if I was following that 100% to the T, I probably would have given up. I'm like, because this is not working. There is no way out of this. There's no way putting that that is in a box and then putting that box over here into a round hole. But so it was like, I know that if I took these tools and it was the tools that I was like, okay, I like this one, I can use that one, I like this one. Putting those together was what kept me going. And it's most important that you don't get stuck in the little things of, I've got to do this and it's got to be done. Oh, he did a deal in 2 or 3 days. The reality is that doesn't happen. Is because like especially when you're doing alternative deals, like, at the end of the day, I did, this deal was 0 out of pocket and 0 down. But the other thing is people get confused is 0 down isn't 0 out of pocket. Right, because 0 pocket isn't 0 down.
It's somebody else's money, right?
Yeah, the money's coming from somewhere. So even though I've initially done this and I'm in the business now and I'm working towards it, and it was 0 down and 0 out of pocket. But once we get the books done, there's still 100,000 that's going down. Now it turns out to be 0 out of my pocket, but it's still coming from somewhere.
Right.
And then
so how have you changed on this? I mean, you've been in the arena for a year working a deal. How have you changed? Personally,
I have to be honest. My health has suffered a lot. Having said that, I've just changed my diabetes medicine, and I'm back to what it's supposed to be for the first time. And I actually took it today. Actually, you'll see my monitors on I got this today. Put it on, and it monitors my diabetes, and it's actually back down to where it's supposed to be for the first time in a long time.
That's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
I agree for you.
Well, the thing is, and I'm open and honest, and me and my wife had problems, and she almost left me because I packed her up, brought her to the US, and we were supposed to be doing this, and it shouldn't have. What we've been in now was 16 months, and it's taken 16 months. And I think the thing that people also need to understand when you're doing this merger, like, don't try and do things that you don't know what you're doing. So, like, I could have gone down and tried to get a digital marketing agency. I could have gone down and done my own podcast, for example, but that's not what I do. I'm a security guy. So I've got to stay in my lane. And that's the only thing that kept me going, was because I didn't, I might wake up one day and think, oh, what's going on? This is crazy. It's not working. But I knew what I was doing. Where if I was doing something digital, it's like I'd wake up and go, well, this is not working and I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to give up.
There's too many questions like what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, once I have my own business, like the security business here, and it's developed, maybe then acquiring a digital marketing agency might be something to look at. But the digital marketing agency being my first acquisition was definitely not an option.
It's almost like I think everybody thinks that I want to buy a digital marketing agency.
Yeah, but the thing is, I guess there's certain things that you need to pay attention to. You need to listen to in between. So, like, I'm not sure if you're on but there was one time I was still in Australia and we're having a call, and I actually asked the guy that was in charge of the mastermind. I said, "You keep telling us about all these great deals that you're doing. Can you tell us about your failures?" And he went, "Yeah," and he spoke for the next 30 minutes, and it was great. He said, but he turned off the recording because obviously he was mentioning names of how things didn't work and etc. But it was good because it put things in perspective that not everything is rosy, not everything is working. And if you listen to certain things, they're sort of like, oh, maybe you might get 10 potential deals in 102 connections, and then of those 10 potential deals, 7 of them might be real, and of those 7 that are real, you might end up doing 1 or 2. But the reality is, you might end up doing none. And it's just like,
yeah, if you look at that funnel and it goes down to 1 to 2, and that's over a 12-month period, I mean, you cannot rely on a 1 to 2 is going through over it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing was too, and then like we have that Facebook group, and initially you saw the initial guys that were really like, yeah, no, I've got this deal, but actually in reality they didn't close any of them. And the thing was, like, and you're right, they were like, oh, digital marketing is the way to go. And during the pandemic, digital marketing was attractive to people because it wasn't, it was no face to face, and everything's going off, online and everything. But it was like, if you're not in that space and you don't understand it, how do you move forward? Now,
I completely agree, because you don't really know what how the bell rings.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, whether you want to call it zero out of pocket, or if you want to go down the road of trying to get it zeroed down, the issue then comes down to is you have to build up a rapport, which is why it's taken me 6 months. So I built up a rapport and I want to say a friendship with the seller in Vegas. So the point is that he trusts me, that he will give me his business for no money down, and then a small deposit, which is zero out of my pocket, to then take over his business, to then be able to give me seller financing of 1.1 million in a $1.6 million deal. Now, you have to understand what you're doing. You have to show them that you know what the business is that you're getting involved in. If you don't, if you want to acquire a digital marketing agency and you have no experience in digital marketing whatsoever, why is someone going to give you seller financing?
Why is someone going to let you take over their business for no money out of pocket?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I think, a lot of people got the mindset, oh, this is easy, I'll just go in, I'll digital marketing, no problem, or people will hand over their businesses. It's not the case, because at the end of the day is they're selling for a reason, and like they might have flexibility in when they want their money, but they still want their money. And if they can't see that you're going to give them their money, then they're not going to do a deal with you.
Marcus, this is exactly why I started the podcast, because you get on the masterminds and you're talking to these coaches and you get one question, maybe 2, and that's it, because there's 50 other people on the call, and you're not understanding what it takes to actually make a deal go through with this creative type of financing. So that's why I'm talking to M&A entrepreneurs like yourself. Like, look, it took 16 months. It took 6 months to build a relationship. Him probably testing you a number of times. He goes like, does this guy know his stuff? Like, oh my God, he's got some AI that I can buy from him and then reverse the sale, or, turn it around. Like, do I trust this guy? That takes time to build.
And the thing too is, like, I do believe the other 2 offers were real offers. But there's obviously things connected. As I said, like, he doesn't have his book, so that other real, like, technically it might have been a real offer. It's not going to go through because he doesn't have his books. But I believe, as you said, he's testing me. Look, if I don't contact him for a few weeks, if I don't agree with what he's saying, is he going to walk away? Because if he's going to walk away so easily, why would I do the seller finance? Because if he walks away easy from this, when it gets difficult when he's running my business, if he walks away from it, I'm not going to get my money. So
at some point when he came back with a counter offer and said, let me have your AI, and then I relicense it back to you, there was a point where your relationship turned into a partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, like actually we had a conversation and I said to him, like, so I was in Vegas on Friday and I said, so I've got a contract, so I've got a guarding contract, which I've been working here in Los Angeles, but I had nowhere to put it. So I was sort of been on hold. I just, like, it's funny how when things start going right, and like, I won't say, they're perfect at the moment, but like they're starting to turn around, other things start coming back on board. So I'd spoken to this company about taking over the guarding in LA, and it sort of been put on hold. And they came back to me last week and said, we've just got our grant from the government. Let's have a meeting. So I've got a meeting with them tomorrow. But I said to the seller, I said, I'm at more risk now than you are. I said, because if because he doesn't have anything in Los Angeles. He has a license for California, but most of it's up in Oakland and San Francisco. I said, I've got now somewhere. I'm going to put this contract with you. So if we don't go through with this, I said, I can't just take that contract and put it somewhere else. You've got the contract. I said, and then you've got my technology, which I've handed over the exclusive rights to. Now, not that it's a big deal to me. I said, because it still gives me the licenses to be able to sell them. I said, if this doesn't go through, you're going to end up with a company that has proper books that you can go and sell it properly. You're going to have a footprint in Los Angeles, but you went, but I don't want a footprint in Los Angeles. I said, yeah, but if you want to sell your business, a footprint in Los Angeles is a good thing. So I said, you're going to have a footprint in Los Angeles, and you're going to have the technology, and you're going to have good books. So your company's going to be probably worth more than if this doesn't go through on paper than what it is right now, because the books are done. So it's sort of reverse, where he was thinking that he was more at risk than I am, but now it's reverse, where I'm now at more risk than he is.
It was risk reversal. You really showed the value to him. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Marcus, we're already up on the hour. Sorry for any technical problems, but I want to thank you for spending time with me.
No, it was good. And I really appreciate time, John. And especially like times when you're down, there's certain people you can call on just to have a chat, because sometimes it helps much more than people realize, just to have a chat and get things.
Yeah, man, I thank you. I appreciate that too.
All right. Excellent.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Bye.